Mr. Attorney General, a few questions for you. Yes or no, please. In a functioning democracy, is it common for the leader of the country to order the criminal justice system to retaliate against his political opponents?
Is that a question?
Yes, that's the question.
Is it proper? Is that what you...
No, you answer to me whether it is yes or no, your response.
But I didn't quite catch the beginning of the question. I'm sorry.
Right. In a functioning democracy, is it common for the leader of the country to order the criminal justice system to retaliate against his political opponents?
Mr. Conyers, I would say that it's the Department of Justice can never be used to retaliate politically against opponents, and that would be wrong.
I interpret that as no. For my yes or no question, are you recused from investigations that involve Secretary Clinton?
Mr. Chairman, I cannot answer that yes or no, because under the policies of the Department of Justice, to announce recusal in any investigation would reveal the existence of that investigation, and the top ethics officials have advised me I should not do so.
Did anyone else at that meeting, including then-candidate Trump, react in any way to what Mr. Papadopoulos had presented?
I don't recall.
So your testimony is that neither Donald Trump nor anyone else at the meeting expressed any interest in meeting the Russian president or had any concerns about communications between the campaign and the Russians?
I don't recall it.
Yes or no? After the March 31st meeting, did you take any steps to prevent Trump campaign officials, advisors, or employees from further outreach to the Russians?
Mr. Nadler, let me just say it this way. I pushed back at that. You made statements that he did in fact, at the meeting, I pushed back.
We know that, but did you, after the
No,
meeting?
I'm not. I have to be able to answer. I can't be able to be put in a position where I can't explain.
Minutes. I'm asking you.
I'm not going to be able to answer if I can't answer completely.
Well, you said you pushed back. We accept that. After the meeting, did you take any further steps to prevent Trump campaign officials, advisors, or employees from further outreach to the Russians after you stopped it or pushed back at that meeting?
What I want to say to you is you allege there were some further contacts later. I don't believe I had any knowledge of any further contacts, and I was not in regular contact with Mr. Papadopoulos.
So your testimony today is that you communicated with nobody in the campaign about this matter after the March 31st meeting because nothing happened.
Repeat that.
Your testimony, therefore, is that you communicated with nobody in the campaign about this matter after the March 31st meeting.
I don't recall it.
You don't recall. At some point, you became aware that the FBI was investigating potential links between the Trump campaign and the Russian government. After you became aware of the investigation, did you ever discuss Mr. Papadopoulos' effort with anybody at the FBI?
Did I discuss the matter with the FBI?
Yes.
To ask them questions about what they may have
Did you
found?
discuss the Papadopoulos question with the FBI?
I have not had any discussions with Mr. Mueller or his team or the FBI concerning any factors with regard to this
Nobody else at the
investigation.
FBI either?
No.
At the Department of Justice?
No.
At the White House?
No.
Any member of Congress?
Well, I don't know if these conversations may have come up at some time, but not to obtain information. With regard to your broad question, I don't recall at this moment, sitting here, any such discussion.
Now, the foreign policy platform at the Republican National Convention undertook dramatic changes. Did you discuss changes to the Republican foreign policy platform with Mr. Flynn at any point during the campaign?
I don't recall it.
You met with Ambassador Kislyak in November of 2016. Did you discuss your meetings with Ambassador Kislyak with Mr. Flynn?
Did I discuss Mr. Flynn with him?
Did you discuss your meeting with the ambassador with Mr. Flynn?
The ambassador, I met with, I think, some 25 ambassadors that year. I did meet once in my office with Mr. Kislyak, and I do not recall and don't believe I communicated any of that information to Mr. Flynn.
Are you aware of any meetings between Ambassador Kislyak and Mr. Flynn that might have occurred around the time of your meeting with the ambassador?
I do not.
Okay. In her testimony before the Senate in May, former acting Attorney General Sally Yates testified that 1 week into the Trump administration, she notified the administration that Mr. Flynn had lied to Vice President Pence about discussing sanctions with Ambassador Kislyak. As part of the transition team and the president's pick for Attorney General, in January, were you notified when the administration was notified of Mr. Flynn's lie and his susceptibility to Russian blackmail?
I don't believe so.
Did you at any point discuss with Michael Flynn the possibility of then-candidate Trump or his surrogates meeting with the Russian government?
I do not recall such a conversation.
Did you know that Flynn was working for the Turkish government while acting as a surrogate for the Trump campaign?
I don't believe I had information to that effect.
Did you know that he was working for the Turkish government at any point after the election?
I don't believe so.
Were you or anyone on the Trump campaign aware of Mr. Flynn's efforts to extradite Turkish cleric Gulen?
I've read that in the paper recently, but I don't recall ever being made aware of that before this recent release in the paper.
So you just read about it. After the inauguration, you did not know that the FBI was requested to conduct a new review of Turkey's 2016 extradition request for Mr. Gulen?
The FBI was...
Did you know about that?
I'm aware that the Turkish government continued to press the federal government with regard to seeking the return of Mr. Gulen to Turkey.
As you well know, Lee Kaufman, Wendy Miller, Debbie Watson Gibson, Gloria Thacker Deason, and Beverly Young Nelson, these young women, have accused this individual, Judge Moore, who is running for a federal office, the United States Senate, of child sexual activity. Do you believe these young women?
I have no reason to doubt these young women.
And if he comes to the United States Senate,
and I think I should continue to do so.
If he comes to the United States Senate, that there would be the possibility of referring his case for at least a federal review by the Department of Justice.
We will do our duty.
You continued in the October 18th meeting before the Judiciary Committee or hearing in the Senate to not answer the question. Now, in light of the facts that are now part of the record, do you wish to change your testimony before the Senate Intelligence Committee on June 13, 2017, where you said, I have never met with or had any conversation with any Russians or any foreign officials? Let me jump to the final part.
Well,
I have no knowledge of any such conversations by anyone connected to the Trump campaign. Do you want to admit under oath that you did not tell the truth or misrepresent it, or do you want to correct your testimony right now?
You're referring to my testimony at confirmation?
Before the Senate Intelligence Committee, my time is short, and I have 2 more questions, please.
Well, I'm not able to respond because I don't think I understand what you were saying.
I'm asking your Intelligence Committee testimony, do you want to change it where you indicated you had no knowledge of involvement of the Trump individuals involved in conversations regarding the Trump campaign Russians? And Mr. Miller supported Mr. Trump's press conference where he said, Russia, if you're listening, I hope you'll be able to find the 30,000 emails. Do you want to change your testimony that was where you said, I have no knowledge of any such conversations by anyone connected to the Trump campaign regarding Russians involved in the campaign? That was a testimony on June 13.
I'm not able to understand.
All right, let me move.
Prior to Jim Comey's termination, were you contacted by the Donald Trump administration, anyone in that administration, Donald Trump himself or any of his political or campaign officials, about their quest to fire Jim Comey?
I am not able to and cannot reveal conversations with the President of the United States or his top advisors.
What I want to know is, has the White House or any individual in or on behalf of the Trump administration or the Trump political team or campaign, excluding staff from FCC or DOJ, has anybody contacted you, your office, or your assigns regarding that AT&T Time Warner acquisition? First,
I would say that I don't accept and cannot accept the accuracy of that news report. We have a professional...
So your department has not told Time Warner that, and AT&T, that they must shed Turner Broadcasting?
Our work is professional. They do meet with the...
Is that a false report or is it a true report?
I just would tell you, I don't think it's, I'm able to accept as accurate news reports that have been come out on that.